Did you know 95% of companies are collecting user feedback? 95? What's happening with the other 5%?
Well, they must be guessing.
Yeah, I reckon they must be. But out of that 95%, only 2/3 of them are actually acting effectively on that data. That's why in today's episode, we're going to talk about user feedback methods, why some of them work, why some don't, where and when they're best used, and how these methods can help you act more effectively on your data. Let's dig in.
Okay, so according to First Run Capital, products that use qualitative user research are 2 times more likely to achieve product market fit. Amazing. And also, according to Bain and Company, companies that prioritize user feedback actually can see 60% higher profit margins than those that don't do that. Isn't that amazing? And I would definitely listen to Bain and Company. Those guys know what they're talking about.
Yeah, 60% is huge on your profit margins. If you're already running surveys or focus groups, this episode couldn't be better timed because they're not always the best strategies. And your results can massively depend on how you approach these things. That's why in today's episode, we've ranked 9 of the most common feedback methods, and these run from worst to best. And this is based on our 2 decades of experience in the field. We'll highlight the 2 best solutions that separate successful founders from the rest. And Hollywood's biggest platform launch disaster is a fantastic story that you're going to tell.
I love it.
I really love that. And also, we'll give you a feedback checklist for success.
And one thing I am super excited about to talk is the negative feedback, right? Because we worked in last 20 years with so many companies. And one thing we noticed every time is that whether you're a big tech business or small, everybody is afraid of negative feedback. And the problem with that is that people feel like there is some kind of a guilt or blame around this. And I remember we had a couple of clients and I remember they were saying, well, we don't actually share any negative feedback because we are afraid of, people pointing fingers at each other and saying, oh, it's your fault because you did this and so on and so on. And I remember this story you were telling me about one of your clients. And then when they said that in the meeting, when they actually get together and talk about what's going on with the platform, they never actually share any negative feedback. Can you remind me what was the deal about that?
Yeah, I am trying to recall the client.
Yeah. You had so many, so
There's I think it might have been regarding NPS. Is that the right one?
Oh, maybe. No, but there was a one story you told me, and there was a veterinary app or something like that you were working on, and maybe they didn't really like sharing the feedback.
Oh yeah,
so
it's
much.
So interesting because it's kind of, I can't pinpoint the actual company. I know which one you're referring to, but it's a challenge for all companies because inside, businesses, corporate world, everyone are working really hard to do great work. And it's not like people do things wrong purposefully. And if you're kind of employed by a corporation or a business, you want to kind of keep your team morale up. So I do understand why you would kind of want to avoid looking at the negative because it can be a bit of a downer on the team that maybe have worked for months on something and shipping something.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to add in one thing that recently one founder said to me. He said, it's soul destroying to hear what users actually think about your product. And I think that's why majority of companies avoid this so much. And they just don't want to look into that because it's quite painful to hear that.
It is painful, but it's actually an absolute tragedy if you aren't looking at that stuff, because if you're building technology and you're looking to improve it, that's where you need to look directly down the lens at that and find out where your kind of growth is by figuring out where all the problems are, because that's where you know how to improve. I know when I was the last bigger corporation I was with, they did a big NPS score, and the senior team were kind of like, yeah, well, we don't worry too much about the negative stuff. We want to look at the positive, because there is a lot of positive, but actually if you're looking for how do you improve your roadmap, how are you prioritizing, how are you kind of moving forward, it's getting down to the negative stuff is where all the magic is, I think, personally.
So would you say that it's better to actually ignore positive feedback altogether?
Well, yeah, I
Controversial.
do. Controversially, I do every time I go to any business. I think like when you have been kind of an external consultant and you go in, it's quite easy to like rid yourself from the feeling precious over what's been done already, because you have fresh eyes, you haven't got any biases. So personally, I would ignore that. Those people are happy. That they're content with what it is that you're delivering. So what is the value other than a nice pat on the back, which is good in certain times?
I mean, some companies base the bonuses, right, even on the fact that if something is perceived as delivered well or not. So I understand there could be a bit of a hesitancy in discussing the negative things. I recently also spoke to one founder.
That is a really good point, actually. Sorry to interrupt. In terms of, if you're in the corporate world, you're employed full time, and then you've got bonuses kind of linked to your performance, then there's almost like a weird inherent kind of thing sort of nestled into the employment world that actually it's better if you don't look at that stuff for improvement, because it's might seem you're not doing a good job, therefore you don't qualify for your bonus. So there's a weird like disconnect there.
But also I think whether you are a huge corporation or whether you are just starting off with the startup, I think our human nature dictates like avoidance of negative anything, like because we feel criticized, we feel like we're not good enough. So I think it's absolutely normal. But what we want to highlight in this episode really is the fact that we should definitely embrace negative feedback and not ignore it. It's better to ignore, as we said, positive and focus on the negative. Yeah.
At the same time, we're actually also kind of inherently good at spotting problems.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like designed to do that. So if you're actually open to looking at it, it can be quite easy to find.
Cool. Agree.
Okay, so let's get into the meat and kick off like our ranking of the 9 feedback methods, and we're ranking these from worst to best, and this is taken on our kind of like 20 years of experience.
Yeah, but I mean, lots of companies really, really struggle with this. And I know, like you said, 95% companies, big or small, already collect user feedback. But the value of user feedback is really in the method they're using and also how you run that particular method, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of actually more tricky than people think.
Yeah.
So based on our 20 years experience in this field, we really want to kind of help you guys pick the method that is the most appropriate for you. So yeah, let's kick off. And we have basically rated it based on difficulty of how to run that particular research method and efficiency. So in terms of how value will be the actual data you will be collecting from that, how useful it would, and how much of an impact it will have on your product. Okay, so let's go.
Yeah, and you did mention a great point there about kind of the variables, about how each of these are set up for the kind of specific strategy. So we're talking methods, so these things can be approached really differently, and how you set them up can make a massive difference.
100%.
So at the bottom, we have surveys. This is controversial. And we said the lazy trap surveys. I think the lazy trap in the way that they are done normally. There is a way we can do these and they can be quite effective, but that isn't how they're done normally. In fact, 80% of SaaS teams still rely on surveys as their number one feedback method, which is crazy. So how does that like normally work? It's an email questionnaire or online form with multiple choice and occasional kind of open-ended questions. Why surveys often fail? Because they're scalable and cheap, but they yield shallow bias results. You're asking users often to kind of predict their future behavior, which is a terrible strategy when it comes down to it. So we've got like this is a low effort and kind of efficiency delivering in terms of results is pretty low also.
I mean, the one problem with, and we always work with startups and founders who are actually trying to use surveys. And the problem is the question that we write in those surveys usually are very biased. So it's actually quite difficult to discover something new with the surveys. We usually just confirm what we already want to confirm. So it's extremely biased and it's hard to uncover new options and new possibilities, specifically in 90% of the surveys that we've seen in our life. Because like you mentioned, there are ways of doing it better, but they are not used most of the time.
Yeah, it quite often falls under the remit of marketing, and marketing will tend to fall into kind of like demographics and segments and ages and that kind of stuff. So we can get quite specific, and it is about kind of confirming specifics rather than, so how would you say that? It's more of a confirmation tool rather than a discovery tool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
But like as I said, they can be done well, and if you go down the discovery route and set them up in a certain way, it can be really good. But it's not normally the case. Most companies, and you would have seen them, no doubt, your inbox is probably full of 50 odd surveys. Give us your feedback, and it's like 10 pages of multiple choices, and yeah. They're often not a lot of fun. I hate
surveys.
Who loves the survey?
Yeah. Okay, and number 8 on our list of best and worst ways of collecting user feedback is Net Promoter Score, or otherwise called NPS. Okay, so how does it work? For those who don't know how it works, essentially, if you come to a website or some platform, you sometimes can see a pop-up suddenly come to you. Everybody loves that, by the way, pop-ups.
Nothing better than that. And every website in Europe right now that you land on, you're smacked with, okay, give us your cookies. You're okay with our cookies, some of our cookies, or only the ones we should take? Yeah.
Oh my God,
why don't you just do that as automatically rather than ask every single?
Well, they can't, it's illegal. But I actually, this morning was funny. I actually went on the website as some rubbish gossip news or something, and I swear it was a pop-up asking me to either accept cookies or pay them.
Oh, cool.
So that's a new level.
Just straight in.
That's a level,
Straight in. That's good. That's a good tactic. Wow. Yeah. More places should do that. Can you just give us money for landing on my website?
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, going back to NPS. NPS is a pop-up that basically when you come to a website and it's asking you, to rate your experience with them. And also it gives you some kind of optional comment box, right? To begin with, it's not great because people hate pop-ups, as we already established. But second of all, one of the most annoying things about those pop-ups, asking you about the experience, is that they show you that pop-up as you visit the page for the first time before you even try to do anything. So I'm like, usually like, I haven't even used your website, but now I'll give you a bad score because I hate this pop-up. Okay. Yeah. So the problem with NPS, and I know some companies absolutely love it, but the problem with NPS is that it really reduces a complex user sentiment to actually one meaningless number, when you're rating it. And it really doesn't explain why somebody gave that number. Okay?
Yeah. And
most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. When you say a complex experience, one number, but where are you in your journey? What are you doing? If you just started, if you just come to it, it's a great example of the first time you land, and then they're like, tell us about your experience with us. And it's like, well, I just landed on your website. I actually don't have any understanding of it yet, but
That's a really good point you made, actually. That NPS score really doesn't tell you where in the journey you actually rating it, right? Because the whole journey might be fine, but maybe just one page that was bad or something else happened, right? So we actually will not know why somebody gives you 8.2 or whatever, like your NPS, why your NPS is 8.7 or whatever. Like, what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
What do you do with this number?
Yeah, there's plenty of people like in the field leading saying that this really does not really going to give you some actionable insights on things that you can go away and fix and go, yeah, this part of the experience isn't working for us. It's the onboarding or signing up or whatever it is in your
it's not going to be. It's going to be quite shallow, and for that reason, we put it on the position 8. It's not difficult to set up, but the efficiency of that is really low, and you will not really get any meaningful information for that.
Yeah, it's used across the board. It's a kind of common default. I think because just of the financial world in which we live in, and those in the C-suite, they are, it's a numbers game, and people like numbers, so that provides some security on how they're kind of delivering.
I mean, it's an easy way of measuring it. Like I said, it's easy to measure, but it's not going to give you a deep understanding of your customers.
Yep, 100%. Okay, 7. We've got. Are we done on that?
Yeah, we're done on that. Let's go.
Sorry, I just kicked into 7. Social media monitoring. The vanity metric. So how does this work? We're kind of like tracking brand mentions on Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, using your social listening tools. Why this fails, it shows trends but kind of lacks context, and you're getting opinions from people who may not even really be your customer. So there's a bit of a challenge around kind of like social media kind of complaints, and are they actually your users, and what is the world of social media in the kind of context of the specific thing that you're trying to do. So it can be good to kind of get a vibe and sense around, I think, maybe what's happening now in terms of like news cycles, and but the way that social media is set up and made, it's fundamentally around kind of engagement, and what gets engagement is, like the news, it's extreme. It has to be shocking. It has to grab your attention. So it might not necessarily be one of the best places to kind of find out what it is that your users need and how you can kind of pivot, improve your technology off of that.
I mean, let's just say that we collect user feedback in order to improve the proposition of the platform, the experience of the users. To find out whether we actually meet their needs.
Product market fit.
Is our product easy to use? So all of this stuff does not really come across in social media, right? And like you rightly mentioned, that I complain about some brands online, and then but I'm not actually using them, right? And so some of them could be just, I just hate this brand, so I heard something, so I'm gonna reshare this, right? So that doesn't actually express usability of how good is the platform and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
go on.
Reduced version, so it's like bite size. You're annoying me. I'm just going to shout about it on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's missed of context of everything else. You might still use that brand because you kind of really like them, but you stumble across a experience that, something that bugs you. It really irritates you. You just kick off about it.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't do that personally.
No, never. I know.
I've heard that people do.
I actually a couple of years ago, I had to go to my Twitter, X now, account and actually delete complaints about some of the brands because I felt really ashamed of all of this. I mean, not ashamed, but I was like, okay, this is not needed. But this is a good example of like, I just comment about some stuff, but it actually has nothing to do with actual platform and usability of it. I remember one of my clients, big clients, they had like a huge screen, like this size of screen that we have behind us, with a constant monitoring of all social media. And it was really nicely done because you could see, okay, which social media, what was the sentiment overall? Is it going up or down? A couple of like recent tweets or recent comments. And I found it interesting, but I was at the time working actually on the platform that they had. And I found it completely useless in terms of informing how the platform should be.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of interesting. Like you said, it's a vanity metric a little bit. It's cool to have. Everybody likes it. But does it inform the product? Not really.
Yeah, I think it's around like the depth. When you're looking for user research, you need context, and there's layers, and that isn't, you're not really going to get that from social media. Maybe some Reddit conversations could be kind of cool.
They go
subreddits.
deeper in what's going on.
And it's true. Back and forth, and you've got like a paragraph, and then it's, but
that is very true.
Yeah.
But so anyway, to summarize, the effort to set it up is probably medium to high, because it's a lot of work, I would say, unless you use a company that does it automatically somehow, then it's really low. But the efficiency of that is not great. So if you have other options, we would not make it your main strategy.
Yeah, again, also just before we move on from that context, what is the actual product or platform? It might actually be something where that is super relevant.
Yeah.
And it could be sort of kind of like helpful. I'm thinking maybe e-commerce, and if you're selling certain products and you're promoting people and then they're in flavor, then it could be like more useful than what we're suggesting in the context of actual getting user feedback specifically. But for the most part, it's not one of the best.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. On the position 6 of best and worst ways of collecting user feedback, we have in-platform feedback. So it's called the interruption strategy. And, I already said how much I love pop-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's even better when it's in an app.
Oh, yeah, in an app it's even better.
Yeah.
But there's two ways. So basically, the premise of this, you either have a pop-up on the platform or in the app, or you have a place within this experience where you can actually flag and give your feedback. To be honest with you, it can be done really nicely.
Can be great if you like just shipping something new in the app, and the one client you worked for feedback and improving usability as you're shipping. That can be really cool.
Yes. So majority of companies I've seen do it, it's not great. But one experience I had was awesome. So basically I was working on an application at the time, and it was a new app. So we wanted to get as much feedback as possible. So we were using this tool where the user could shake the phone. And what the tool was doing was taking a screenshot of where you are in the app, and you could draw on the screen, like highlighting what you didn't like. You can also write underneath what problems you had.
That sounds amazing. Dare you tell us what that product was?
I don't remember for the life of me. But
there goes our sponsorship.
No, we can remember for an appropriate amount of money.
Okay. Cool.
Anyways, so it was fantastic, and I actually was going through that feedback very often. I think I was going once a week through feedback. We were collecting lots of data. People were loving it. And we very quickly were able to fix lots of bugs. Not just bugs, but also like people like, oh, I didn't expect this to happen, blah, 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 blah.
So that's so amazing. You just get rid of your whole QA team and...
Well, we still had the QA team. Okay. Nobody was out of work. Okay. Just a disclaimer. Anyways. And what I was going to say, so that shows like very good way of doing it, but you also can do it very badly. Two ways I've seen it is obviously my favorite pop-ups, where they just pop up randomly and give us some feedback.
As soon as you've landed and not used the platform.
Or you know what is the worst? Like if you are in the process of something, let's say you're booking a ticket, a flight,
my God,
you're going through step by step and you're like, oh my God, I need to get this quickly before somebody else takes the seat, right? And then suddenly you have a pop-up saying like, give us feedback or whatever. It's like, this is like, I want to throw away my phone through the window, basically. And so that's one way. Please don't do it. Like, please don't do it this way.
How does that even happen?
Well, I don't know. But you know what? Actually, I think it's because a lot of companies buy those tools, automated tools. And it's easy because
it's just done on a time, and they don't think about where they are in the journey.
And also I think because it's easy, like like those companies tools advertise a very easy integration. So one code, line of code,
very easy integrated, but just absolutely destroys your experience of your customer.
Exactly.
Don't worry about that; it's easily integrated.
Yeah, that's it. A winner. So that I think that happens. I think behind the scenes, everybody's got good intentions because I think in general, everyone has got good intentions. The company that create the tools, the company that has the product, but we always need to remember to look at everything in context.
Yes, someone will be using this.
Yes, correct. Okay, another way of doing this in-platform feedback I saw is just having a place in the app where you can actually click and provide feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it can, like you say, it's in the context. At the end of a journey, after you've completed something,
or something didn't work, and you want to give feedback.
Yeah, all that.
I think that's fine.
That could be really helpful to get actionable insights.
Yes.
You've just done this thing, it's completed. Now can you give us feedback? It's like then part of the journey and the experience. So you've gone through it, you've done your task, and it's not interrupting what I'm here to do. And then you can get,
It's hard though to implement that on for apps, for instance, or for mobile web experience, because I saw, I should have taken the screen grab, but I saw one platform when I went on my mobile, and they had a little pop-up on the top, so telling me something, and then there was a chat at the bottom, like a massive icon of the chat at the bottom, and then on top of that, they had also, this floating chat things.
Oh, I love a floating button.
Yes, you had a chat floating chat, and then on top of that you had give us feedback floating item, and then on the very top you had also this. I don't remember what it was, but it was another thing that was floating.
Yeah,
and
I love it easily integrated.
I could not see what I was, looking for because it was overlapping everything, like other important buttons. So be very careful, especially if your main platform is on desktop, but or some of the users also use it on on mobile web. Just check if all of your integrations don't interrupt the actual experience of the users.
And that's the job, right? Because if it's a responsive solution, you need to do that across all of those different screen sizes, mobile, tablet, desktop. Yeah, that's why that easily happens, because it's like it's a full job just to check that all of these integrations. But often it's like, on a larger company, different segments of the organization doing their own thing, and then the experience as a whole is just completely missed.
Yeah,
it's like, we need to check the analytics or what's happening with our marketing campaigns, and then you got designers doing the
as usual, intentions are very good. We just need to be very mindful of how it's done. And it's not just big corporations. I've seen it in startups as well, because those tools are very easily integrated. Like I said, one line of code.
Of course. But it's like the teams individually, like it working in silos rather than together. Okay. Large corporation or small business,
One last thing about in-platform feedback that I want to highlight that is really important is that these ways of collecting feedback, this is very, very passive. So we rely on the users to give us that feedback, right? It's when automated, it's very annoying, but also like I said, it's passive. So we actually sitting there and waiting for people. And I was talking to one founder recently, and they have this the whole tab on their app saying give us feedback, and he said like, we have this many users but nobody ever gives us feedback. And that's exactly the problem with the in-platform feedback, because it's passive. People hate that doing this. I mean, I don't know, like I don't want to spend time giving feedback unless something really badly goes wrong, and then I care enough to write what went wrong, right? So
that is the other thing.
So just to summarize, in-platform feedback, quite easy to integrate. Efficiency is so. It depends how it's done again, right? It could be quite good, but it's passive. So I would say it's not our favorite way of collecting user feedback.
Yeah. 5, focus groups.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Big one.
Yeah.
People love focus groups.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite nice because you organize like people coming together, everybody's talking, it's a nice day.
It's very sociable.
Very sociable, yeah.
Have some nice treats and expensed food and goodies to share with everyone.
But what's the premise of the focus group, right?
Yeah, well, it's like gathering everyone in a room and a slightly guided discussion to kind of get people's views and opinions on stuff. I think I don't know if I'm correct about this, but it seems the case in Hollywood, like that's done a lot around TV shows and, when they're kind of checking, how's this going down? What's the vibe?
I think also like in marketing, it's done a lot, which totally makes sense because it's kind of like figuring out if the idea is good or concept or branding. Or perception of branding is good. So I think works really well for that.
Yeah.
But we're talking about in the sort of topic of digital products.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Then it's not so good.
Yeah, and what happens there is you've got the dynamics of a group in a room, so you've got all of that kind of psychology playing out, and depending on whether those people know them, or quite often if you're like in an organization, you've got like a hierarchical tier, so you know perhaps not everyone is going to be as honest, and it might be, even if it isn't the hierarchy thing, it could just be the loudest voice which wins, and so they would be dominating the viewpoint for people kind of feeding back in. So that's where it kind of tends to fall down for me on a supporting the improvements of a digital product, platform, or service.
I mean, I remember I was working for one company where I was doing research and it was a very big corporation, and they had like a whole teams. They would have like a head of the team and the rest of the team. And the products that we were building were really, really complex. And so how they wanted me to do research was to talk to everyone at the same time. So you would have a head of the team and like 7 people who are in the team. And because they really wanted to do it, and I said that that's not the best approach, I still did it because I wanted to show them what would be the difference between doing it like in that setting versus, which is very similar to focus group, versus if we do one-on-one sessions. And the result of that was really interesting because when we were in the room with the team and the head of the team, nobody else was talking, just the head of the team.
Yeah,
he was saying, answering all of the questions. Maybe sometimes we'll ask other team members some small things, but he was basically running the whole show. Now, the difference was when I was running the sessions one-on-one, which with each person, we got completely different picture of what needs to be delivered. And actually, when I presented the results of that research, the head of the team was so shocked. He's like, they never told me this. I didn't know about this, right? So that actually I think this gives you like a good picture of like what happens if you try to get information in the group, and depending on the group dynamics, you will get different information.
Yeah, well, on that, I've had a similar experience, and I think the important thing to point out there is like, within an organization and the different like hierarchy, that could be from top down and then also across, like each level will have their own needs and requirements from the platform. So, as a leader, you'll be using the platform for a certain number of items, problems to support you, and then the people underneath. So if they're not getting the chance to air what they're saying, you won't feed out, okay, what is it that we actually need to make this work better? Like what you've kind of like articulated much better than I am. What you say. I'm trying to say that, up the chain, they have different tasks and their job role is different. Therefore, if they're using a platform, product or service, what they need from that product is going to be slightly different.
Yeah.
And in order to make the product work for everyone in the organization, like the people outside the organization, you need to understand, okay, where are the nuances, what are the difference, and what are the like different features and aspects of stuff that we need.
Yeah, and also it's important to highlight here, because we are talking about big organizations, but the same principle applies to small companies.
And the customer base.
And the
right?
customer base, like it's the same, because the group dynamics will be always the same. I personally have never done, maybe I've done once, maybe focus groups, because one of the companies wanted to do that, but
I think I've been like...
well, you dragged into one.
Yeah, we're like, we're going to go to this company now. I know one client flew us over to the States. I did a whole round of research in London, and then we went over to New York. It's quite a cool job, actually. And then I was
like
going to businesses around there, and we were saying, yes, we'll do, one-on-one. But then they were like, oh, we've got a couple of other people that want to join. So before we knew it, I had a focus group, and I was running a focus group.
Oh,
I was
okay.
okay, cool. Yeah, this is how it's going to roll now.
Oh, but that's another thing that people think that it's easier to do a focus group because you sit down with everyone at the same time, and it doesn't have to be like one-on-one.
Yeah, it sounds efficient. It does sound.
Efficient,
it's like, we'll get that person and that person, and then there's like 5 people. You're like, okay.
And another challenge with focus group I want to highlight is that because in user research and user feedback, we want to search for patterns, right? We don't want to be like, oh, this person said this, so that we change everything. We want to look for, let's say we have sessions with 10 people. We want to look for the pattern. Is the same problem is being repeated by several people in this group that we tested with, right? It's very easily done when you do it one-on-one. It's very difficult to do it in focus group because people talk over each other. You don't get the same quality information from each person. You might get answer only from 3 people. And like we said, if somebody is like has got stronger personality, they can take over completely the conversation. So we actually will miss out on that quantitative data, and we will not see the patterns if we only use focus groups.
Yeah, you're really only going to get the data from that person that's talking. So
that's right.
They go, yes, you agree. Yes, you agree.
Everybody's agreeing.
Everyone agrees. You're my boss, so yes.
One, I think somebody told us. I don't remember if it was. We were in some event, and there was a lady who was talking with. She was working with youth maybe, and she said the only time where focus groups really work for product is when you're doing a product for kids.
Oh yeah, that's true actually.
So,
I remember that. We're in the States.
Yeah, so
there was a Smashing magazine.
Maybe, yeah. And I think that really stuck with me, and I thought that actually makes a little sense because kids very often do things together and like kind of play with the same toys or games and stuff like that. So if you're building a product for kids, go ahead and do focus groups. Otherwise, we do not suggest doing that because the efficiency of that's going to be medium to low.
Yep.
Okay, number 4 on our fantastic list of best and worst way of doing collecting user feedback is reviews and ratings. Okay, so what it is, basically we would collect user feedback from looking at some store reviews, so app store reviews. You can get comments there, maybe some kind of marketplace rating, maybe even, Trustpilot or something like that, and sort of collecting all of those reviews, and then analyzing what the overall situation is with the application. I know, Simon, that you've done loads of this stuff. So can you comment a little bit? Like, how do you find that as a source of user feedback?
I think it's like a great starting point. And do I want to say it works for bigger companies? Maybe because they just have a bigger audience and they...
Well, you will have more comments, right? Because it only works if you have a lot of data to work with.
Exactly.
If you only have 3 comments, that's probably not going to be great.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same situation. You're not necessarily looking for the good reviews. You want the bad stuff. So there's a whole collection of that. Then, it's a great starting point to get a kind of feel and a vibe of what are some of the challenges that people are talking about. Again, it's quite often quite concise unless it's a really big meaty problem and someone's properly let it rip, and then you've got like a few paragraphs to review. So it's a good sort of port of call to go, okay, what are some of the themes that are coming up that people are talking about? And then from there, you might go off and do some other stuff. Another great way that it can be really useful is if you have a competitor that's doing really well in the market and you're looking at them because they're providing a service which is kind of, on it and they're nailing it. Then actually looking at what people are saying about that service, why they love it and what's good about it can also be like the flip side of bringing out some themes that you might want to consider if you're a business that's having some challenges on the other side, if that makes sense. You're looking at me quite blankly.
No, I'm thinking, I love it because
Okay.
I didn't think about it. That you actually, if you're building something in space, let's say fintech, and you know who your competitors are, you can actually get so much information from
what's working
for
not.
them or not working for them. That's a brilliant idea.
What are those like really key areas that are super important to make sure you're
nice.
You have them covered?
Nice. Anyway, so reviews, ratings is not too bad, right? In terms of collecting user feedback.
Yeah, well, we're getting up there because this is like number 4 now.
Yeah, so it's getting warmer.
Yeah,
I'll say. So you can do that. You can get some good data from this, but the caveat is you really need a lot of data. You need to have a lot of comments, right? Because it's not going to fly with just 2 comments.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it sort of it provides kind of kicking off points for areas to dig into. Yeah, so it's not, the kind of supporting things, but often it's like one of the things if you're fresh into a business or company that is a great like starting point, kicking off to find out what the issues are and digging in from then. Okay, cool. So point 3, we're up to the 3rd now. We've got customer support tickets, and you've labeled the pain detector. So how does it work? We're analyzing like reoccurring support issues and complaints for patterns. So obviously if you've got reoccurring issues on your platforms and people are asking for support and raising tickets, it's a great okay, here's an area we need to fix this quick and sharp and kind of jump off the back. You've got why it's better because it's kind of direct. So this is great because it's direct feedback about a specific area in your experience. It's from like committed users that are already using the platform, and they're providing challenges around the actual problem. So it can be a good
meaty information.
Yeah, meaty information. Yeah.
Well, first of all, the challenge with this is that you need to have some kind of system with collecting tickets, right? That's a challenge to use this method.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to go, okay, what else could I add to that?
Did I interrupt you?
No, go for it, carry on.
No, I'm just thinking it's like I think the support tickets are awesome place to find pain points.
Yeah, and I think that actually it's quite often forgotten about and not really considered. I did a piece of discovery for a brand that were wanting to create a whole new application to support customers with going through the process of creating a bathroom. It's like huge experience.
My God, scary experience to redo your bathroom.
Yeah, and I was sent up to the customer support team, and wow, the insights of some of the challenges around that whole process and experience and using the website, and it was just like, wow, oh my God, this gives us so much information, and it's maybe not always looked to as a place where you can find huge insights to help improve your service or offering.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite story about listening to customer support complaints is with the CEO of T-Mobile. I think he became the CEO of T-Mobile in 2012.
In the States.
In the States, yeah exactly.
Oh, yeah,
and his approach was a couple of times a week, he would just delve into...
Whole day.
Yeah, pardon?
Sit there for a whole day just listening.
I'm not sure if it was whole day. There's different stories I've heard online.
Oh, okay.
So some people say
my story's better than yours.
He would get a glass of wine and dial into, that sounds really good. Like in the evening, instead of watching Netflix,
okay.
he would just dial in and listen to people complaints. But I don't know exactly how it was happening. But I know he was dialing into customers' complaints call and just listening to what people were complaining about. Now, the results the company had on the back of that were absolutely insane. I think their revenue doubled in the time when he was the CEO. The stock went through the roof, and overall, the whole customer and user experience of T-Mobile was increased by X amount of times.
Yeah, who would have thought of that? You kind of listen to your customers, and then it helps your business.
I know, right?
So
But that's like a customer support. Like the customer support people are completely forgotten very often in companies, but they could be like a source of absolute gold. And effort. It depends how you do it. I know customer support, like in terms of calling. It's very expensive for the company, so everybody wants to stay away from that. But you can set it up easily with Zendesk, I think.
Yeah.
That they can actually handle your tickets, and then you can also read those tickets. And I did it for one of my clients. I also was reading actually the complaints and tickets, support tickets, and it was also an amazing source of information for what needs to be fixed. So in general, customer support tickets, the medium effort to set up. It depends what you're using, but the efficiency of the data that we might get is very, very high, very good quality potentially.
Yeah, and not is it just high? I think maybe it's high efficiency and quality is because it's like actionable. There's like things you can fix. I just thought of this great story. So this company that I was helping with the kind of bathroom discovery, when I went and sat with their customer support team, tickets, like it's a whole massive thing to do a bathroom, figuring out what you want. You have to size up the room, and then there's like, okay, ordering in all of the stuff to fit the bathroom after you've made the decisions on what it was and how it looks, and then you've actually need to get somebody to come and fit that stuff, and then there's a plumber, and so there's a whole series of stuff along this journey, and obviously there's a challenge around getting tradespeople in. This when I was sitting with the customer support, so they would have to like book in like a few months ahead to get the trade person in, and what was happening was there was an issue with one thing in the order, and then that would have to delay, and then because the tradespeople were not directly related to the business, they would have to then be booked even further. So the whole job was being delayed because of one item was like missing, and it was these big yellow like maintenance bags, and I think they were like 60p.
Oh, no way.
And
so the whole order of the bathroom was delayed because they were missing bags.
Can you believe that?
No way.
Yeah, and the customer support person was like, yeah, this happens a lot. Wow. Okay.
Shocking, but nobody actually knows about it. Like.
No, but like when you have that understanding, it's like, oh shit, okay, cool. We'll just order some more bags, won't we?
Yeah, manually, like outside of the order. Even.
Yeah, and get a couple of happy customers.
Nice.
Like that. Okay, cool. We're getting to the crunch now. These last two though, they're kind
positions.
of they're on par.
I know you were like offended, Thomas, that I put it on the place too, because I know it's your favorite way of collecting feedback.
Yeah, this is my favorite, and but both of these are as important as each other, so they're kind of a joint one. Although we've got two.
So it's joint 1 and 2, but it's 2.
Yeah, it's 2, and it's in-person interviews. The insight generator you've labeled, I see here. So this is like a one-on-one conversation with open-ended questions and follow-ups. And this is my favorite part of any job, and I love it. It's one-on-one, and you're just digging into the problem, the challenge, the thing that your platform is overcoming. And it's like where we really get the kind of deep insights into user behavior, motivation, the context of the world in which they're kind of living in, and how they're using your tool, when they're going to use their tool, beliefs around stuff. And it's just like, it's a really magical thing, I think. And if you aren't entering into those conversations with what you want to get out of it, there can be just an absolute gold mine of stuff, particularly if we're looking at product market fit and understanding like how your product can offer value more so than like a competitor's problem. But this is where the magic is. Yeah, it's about setting up those with a kind of a process and a method that allows you to have an open conversation. So it's kind of like structured, but also you want to have a bit of freedom where if stuff comes up in the conversation, you kind of dig deep and just be like really interested and excited about those people that you're kind of interviewing. Like you mentioned the veterinarian company that I worked with, so I think I ended up speaking to like 37 vets over in the States, and it's just like fascinating to like enter into people's worlds and really understand what's happening. So in-person interviews are like the best. They're the best way to find out real insights, and it's there's a whole deep thing on how you actually approach that and gather the insights, but that's where the magic is.
Okay, so you're saying that one of two best ways of collecting user feedback is to run in-person interviews with your potential customer. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say,
okay.
But you've beautifully articulated that, because I was waffling like...
No, that's fine. But what I want to throw something at you that I actually recently was asked about this by a founder of a startup. Okay,
throw it at me.
Get ready.
Go on.
So what he asked me, and it totally made sense, was that he was not sure if you interview, only a couple of people, that the information that you get is actually valuable. Like, what would you say to that? Like, and how many people would you interview?
Yeah, that's a great one. We get thrown that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between these two very different data sets, qualitative and quantitative. And there's like a misunderstanding of those two things, and people are kind of putting them together. Quantitative is like the analytics, the things of like what's happening, so stuff you're tracking on the website, people moving around, page visits, where they get to in a journey. It's like what is happening. Qualitative is the untangible stuff, which is really hard to quantify, but they're the insights that tell you why things are happening. And yes, energy group have done like a lot of data studies on that, and it's about 5 is the kind of magic number. When you go above that, you start to you're repeating and you're rehearing the themes that you've already heard. So 5 is the magic number.
Okay, so you would say 5 is enough. But what about if you have... Did I answer
your question? No, I didn't, clearly.
But I have more questions. See?
Okay, good.
What about if you have, and I hear that very often, so let's say you have a platform where you have several types of people, like several types of personas, so you can ask them, call them ICP or profile of the users that you have. Let's say you have 3 different ones, right? Let's say I'm like recently I was chatting to one of the founders that work with us, and he said, okay, our financial platform is aimed at financial directors, some owners of small companies that do some, transactions online on weekly basis, and some other group, right? So because you said 5 would be enough, but the question that I had from him was actually, should he interview 5 people of which of those groups? Like, what would be your approach?
Yeah, that is a good question. You know what? When I first started studying this and I got into the world of this kind of area, someone said to me, 3 people is enough. And I think it kind of depends on where you are with the product and the platform and its maturity.
Okay.
Because if they're early days and they're just kicking off and they're all a bit muddled and there's not a huge amount of clarity on those different target personas, then you could be overdoing it, those 5 for each.
Okay, so 15, you wouldn't suggest that?
Probably not to start with.
Okay.
I mean, I think you want to get there,
right,
and get to that point, because then that's great then. But if your platform isn't in that space yet, there's probably some overarching challenges that will come out across. Just hit 5, but make sure you get some of those, the selection of all of those persona sites in there, and then that will probably be enough for you to go away and go, cool, okay, we figure out some actionable insights, improve the product, the experience, and then you can start digging into that kind of detail. I don't know if that aligns with what you were thinking.
It totally makes sense, and this is a good point you're now bringing up. Because the user feedback is not one-off event, right? Because a lot of companies think they do it just once and that's it.
Oh no, you've told them that's it. You're giving our trade secrets away.
It's actually ongoing process, and you can do it constantly. And in fact,
you have to keep speaking to people.
Who wants that? But you have to keep going as your platform grows, as your propositioning evolves, as your offering changes. You constantly should be doing this, interviews, conversations with users, and tracking like what's going on. Are you still meeting their needs? So
I wouldn't. Each time you'll get slightly deeper and into the kind of nuances of what is required from each of those different target.
Another question. See, you're like under fire today. Another question that I got from one founder.
I'm under fire. I'm not on fire.
Not yet.
Brilliant.
So another question about the interviews.
Yeah.
One founder said to me, well, I am doing interviews. I'm calling them on the phone.
Okay.
So what would you say to that? Like, because we say here in-person interviews, but we actually not doing, since COVID, we're not really doing in-person interviews anymore as much, right? We usually do them on Zoom. But tell me, what would you say to someone who wants to do it over the phone versus like Zoom and having like a proper session? Like,
yeah, good one. That's interesting. I actually quite like doing them remote. Mm-hmm. Why do I like that? I like that because I like having my setup and I've got my structure.
Yeah.
Also kind of documenting and recording that is good because you definitely want to get those transcribed because it's just sort of near enough impossible to take in all of the information that you're kind of receiving. So, I mean, yeah, you can do both. It's good to do it in person.
But that's not my question, really.
Okay,
that's not my question. My question is
maybe I'm avoiding it.
Doing it over Zoom, or in person, versus doing something over phone, because that's what they were doing. They were calling their users and getting feedback from that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Go on. So what's your view on that? Like, because he was asking me why would he do that, in person or over Zoom versus like it's very easy. You can pick up the phone and chat to them.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's an interesting one because if you go back to your example of the CEO from T-Mobile.
Yes, exactly.
That was obviously over the phone.
Works,
it works, but he was listening to enough of it.
Yeah.
And maybe the glass of wine helped. I'm not sure. I think if you do it visually and you can see the other person, you can just pick up a lot more information. Sometimes people will say things and they don't actually mean what they're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever come across that before?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I think it just gives you a bit more of more data, basically. If you're recording over the phone and it's a conversation, that is good. That could, there's nothing wrong with that.
So you're saying it's important to actually observe the body language of the person that you're actually interviewing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because some people might say things, but their face will tell you the completely opposite of what they're saying.
Okay.
I mean, like when it comes to the looking at the product like that, yeah, we'll get to that. But I do think it's. I think it probably like adds double the amount of data you can get because you've got that visual element as well as just like audio.
Okay.
And some people are really comfortable talking and other people are not so comfortable talking and they might take a bit of time. Some people are just really expressionate emotionally. So yeah, it's hard to pick up all of that stuff. I mean, even over the screen, it can be difficult to pick that up, but you're not going to get that at all if you are just doing it over the phone.
Okay, just to summarize. So in-person interviews are one of the best ways of collecting user feedback.
Absolutely.
Yes, one of your favorite.
Yeah.
And it's high effort because we need to
you've got to make an
people,
effort.
Organize the one-on-one call. The most challenging thing is to know what questions to ask.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's where majority of research fails anyway.
Yeah.
Whichever method you choose, right?
Yeah.
But for this one
because it's not about confirming your thinking.
Exactly. It's not about that. And when we work with founders, they always say that to us that, recently we finished working with one of fantastic lady from America. And she said, after we finished working with her, she said, now I can understand what you meant by saying we can get any answers we want if we lead our customers.
Yeah.
Right. And that really stuck with me. Amen to that. All right, let's move on because we're going to sit here for 3 hours. But last one, and obviously controversial here because you saying number 2 and number 1 are actually equal. There's two sides. Basically, it's two sides of the same coin, I would say, in terms of user research and user feedback. So number 1 on our list of the best ways of collecting user feedback is usability testing. Okay, now...
The joint one though, isn't it?
Pardon? The joint one.
Yeah,
it's joint together with in-person interviews. Yeah. But usability testing essentially... So whilst in-person interviews help you improve product market fit, usability testing, as the other side of the coin, helps you improve the actual ease of use of your platform.
Yep.
But equally, when you run usability testing, you can also discover things that could impact product market fit.
100%, right? Yeah.
So what is it? Okay, so how it works is basically we either have a product or a prototype of a product that is interactive, and we have a user who interacts with this as if we are not there and as if they were just using it as they would do on a normal day.
Yeah,
right?
Beautifully articulated.
And our task, and this is like, I'm going to steal it from you, is ideally we behave as somebody who runs the session as a fly on the wall, and we don't tell them what to do apart from asking them to perform specific tasks, but we don't tell them how to get there.
Yeah,
and
key point there.
Yeah, key point.
It can't be push this button, scroll down, take a left, use that bit. Yeah, which sometimes, which I've seen.
I think majority of companies actually run it in the way where they lead.
Yeah, it's really easy. You just do this, do that, follow that.
No. So the point is that we observe the user as if we're not there, and we just see how really they will behave. So that why it's so amazing. It reveals how users actually behave versus how they say they behave. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic way to understand whether the navigation makes sense, the labels on the buttons make sense, the order of screens make sense, the headers make sense, the descriptions of things make sense. So it's actually one of the best things you can run for your product, but majority of companies that I know, they don't do that ever, because it's quite difficult. You need to know, again, what questions to ask, how to prepare the platform, how to prepare the script, in what order, what to test, so it's a lot of things that you need to know. But it identifies the friction points, confusion, and some actually unspoken user needs that they actually reveal as they're using the product, right? So
even when you go to take the time in preparing for one of those sessions, you can usually discover.
Oh yeah,
it's like our journey's 20 pages long.
Yeah.
Why on earth are our customers not getting through this?
That's right. Okay, just to summarize, we just finished 9 best and worst ways of collecting user feedback. Our 2 best ways that we've tested over 20 years of being in the tech space is in-person interviews and usability testing. Those are definitely our winners, and we will always use those when we want to get great results for our clients, right? Improve conversion, retention, product market fit, and obviously profitability and ease of use of the products.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
The gold standard.
Okay, cool. Let's summarize our episode today. Okay, so a couple of things that we covered. First of all, negative feedback is gold. Let's not avoid it. It's not about demotivating people. It's about knowing which way to go. Okay. Second of all, our 2 most favorite methods of getting user feedback are
usability testing.
Yeah, usability testing, which is when we test the actual experience of the platform, and in-person or Zoom interviews where we're getting the real sort of behaviors, motivations, beliefs, pain points, and so on and so on. So real stuff that we want to dig into when we trying to understand our users. Okay, next up, quality over quantity. And I think we said that a couple of times today, that whenever we're collecting feedback from the users, it's not so much even what method we select, but what questions we actually ask. And really, it's better to talk have a deep conversations with 10 users rather than collect 1,000 or 2,000 surveys, from like very shallow surveys answers. Behavior beats the opinion. So asking people about future behavior or past behavior is not really great. The best way to get user feedback is to watch actually what they do and not what they say they did or will do. Okay. Action is everything. So if we're collecting feedback, please don't sit on that feedback forever. You need to actually do something about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. So feedback without action is actually very expensive procrastination. And that goes back to what you start with. 95% of companies do collect user feedback, but
what happened to the other 5%?
Yeah, I don't know. They just close their eyes and, go for it.
Yeah.
And only 1/3 of those companies actually do anything with that feedback. And remember one thing. If your feedback doesn't make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's probably not working.
Nice one. I like that thought. Okay, so to close up, here's a challenge. This week, sit down with one of your users and watch them use your product, for 30 minutes. Don't help, don't explain, just observe. See what happens. See if they stumble across anything. See if there are any kind of challenges. I'm pretty sure, we in fact guarantee that you will discover something that will help you change how you build your product. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being with us on Building Great Tech. If you like this episode and you want to share some feedback or you have some ideas on new topics to discuss, let us know. We really hope that you found value. If you liked it, you can share with people, circulate with others that might find this useful. We're really keen to build a community around building great tech.
See you in the next episode.